You ever get that feeling that the universe is trying to send you a message, or that some random thing that happened was, well, personal? We're going to dive into that really strange human habit of seeing purpose and intention everywhere, even where there might be none. So, is this just a glitch in our brain's wiring, or is it maybe our greatest evolutionary superpower? Let's figure it out. Oh, we've all been there, right? You just washed your car, it's sparkling, and then bam, a bird scores a direct hit right on the windshield. And for a split second, you don't just feel annoyed. You feel like that bird knew, like it took aim. But why? Where does that feeling even come from? Why is that our go-to explanation? And it's not just about things that bug us. We do this all the time. You look up at the sky and you don't just see a random collection of water vapor. Nope, you see a dragon, or a face, or a dog. Our minds are basically pattern-seeking machines, constantly looking for agents in the chaos. While there's actually a name for this whole thing, agency detection. In a nutshell, it's our built-in default tendency to assume that behind almost any event, there's a mind, a will, a purpose. And the big debate, which is what we're getting into today, is whether this is a huge mistake our brain makes or a masterpiece of evolution. Okay, so let's start with the first side of the argument. The idea that this whole thing is just a big, predictable error, a bug in the system. So you've got some really heavy hitters who argue that this is fundamentally a flaw. Michael Shermer calls it patternicity. Our brain is so desperate to connect the dots that it starts connecting dots that aren't even there, which is a fast track to superstition. Daniel Kahneman would say it's classic System 1 thinking, that fast gut reaction, intuitive part of our brain that's super useful but also often wrong. And the philosopher Daniel Dennett has a great term for it, the intentional stance. It's a useful shortcut for predicting what a person might do, but we just apply it way too broadly to everything from our laptops to the weather. So if you're on this side of the fence, it's really just a software glitch, a default setting that misfires, making us see faces in our toast and intention in a random bird dropping. It leads us down the garden path to all sorts of strange beliefs. But that's only half the story. Because what if this so-called glitch isn't a glitch at all? What if it's actually a feature, and maybe one of the most important survival tools we have? And that question just flips the whole debate on its head. Instead of seeing agency detection as a bug to be fixed, this perspective says, hang on, what if this is a highly tuned instrument for survival, perfected over millions of years? And believe me, this camp has its own all-stars. Steven Pinker argues it's how we evolved to navigate our incredibly complex social world, to figure out who's a friend, who's an enemy, who's a freeloader. Daniel Goleman says it's basically the bedrock of social intelligence. You can't get through a simple conversation without trying to read the other person's intentions. And Richard Swinburne points out that our entire legal and moral systems, the difference between murder and manslaughter, for example, are built on this idea of figuring out intent. Now, to really get this, let's do a quick thought experiment. Put yourself in the shoes of one of our ancient ancestors. You're walking through the tall grass of the savannah, and you hear a rustle in the bushes right next to you. You've got a split second to make a call. What is it? And this table right here. This is where the evolutionary math becomes crystal clear. Let's look at the two ways you can be wrong. You can assume it's a predator when it's just the wind. The cost? You look a little silly. You wasted some energy. A very low price to pay. Or you can assume it's the wind when it's actually a predator. The cost there? Well, it's catastrophic. It's everything. You don't get to make that mistake again. This tells you a fundamental truth about how we're built. Evolution does not optimize for accuracy. It optimizes for survival. It will always, every single time, favor the brain that makes the less costly error. It's way, way better to be paranoid and alive than to be calm, cool, and collected and eaten. Okay, so we've got two really compelling arguments. Is it a bug? Is it a feature? Well, what if the most interesting answer is that it's actually both? And what if it isn't fixed, but is actually adjustable? So yeah, maybe we've been asking the wrong question the whole time. It's not an on-off switch. It's much more like a sensitive dial, a dial that our brain can turn up or down based on how threatened we feel. There's this incredible proverb that just nails this idea. If you've never had a bad run-in with a snake, you see a rope and you think, oh, that's a rope. But after a genuinely terrifying, life-threatening experience with a snake, your brain cranks that agency detection dial all the way to 11. And suddenly your whole system is on high alert, seeing danger and intent in something as harmless as a piece of rope. And here's where it gets really powerful. This isn't just about individuals. This mechanism can scale up to entire populations. When a whole society is going through a period of chronic stress, economic instability, political turmoil, a pandemic, that collective threat dial gets turned way, way up. And the result? People start seeing hidden hands and secret plots everywhere. It becomes the perfect breeding ground for paranoia and large-scale conspiracy theories to take root. So why is this idea of a dial so important? Well, it's not just a clever psychological theory. It fundamentally changes how we can understand ourselves and the sometimes baffling world around us. Thinking of it this way just makes so much sense. It helps us understand our own little irrational moments, especially when we're feeling anxious. It helps us appreciate why we're so good at cooperating socially. But maybe most importantly, it gives us a more empathetic lens to understand why people and whole societies under immense pressure become so susceptible to seeing malice and conspiracy where there might only be chaos. And that's why it's so much more than just another cognitive bias on some long list. This is a deep, fundamental survival algorithm. It's running in nearly every creature that has a nervous system. It's in the cat whose ears twitch at a strange noise, and it's in us, trying to make sense of this complicated and often scary world. And that leaves us with this one final massive thought to chew on. This system, this ancient superpower that saved our ancestors from predators and allowed us to build civilizations, is still running the show inside our modern skulls. So the real challenge for us today is to figure out when it's helping us and when that exact same powerful instinct is leading us completely astray. When does our greatest strength become our most dangerous vulnerability?